Well, no. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with either, but I'm saying as far as agreements, the only thing I could see that would make sense to me personally would be maybe morals, religious. If you're a religious person, maybe religion-based.
You could, but there's nothing. Having good morals and having hold on, let me finish.
Exactly.
Hold on, let me finish. Having good morals and having a religious worldview. You could be 21.
No, 100%.
And be involved in your faith.
No,
you could be 45 and be an atheist.
100%. I'm just saying that's the only thing as far as
you're not speaking into the
I'm
mic.
just saying as far as being agreeable or having things in common, that's the only thing I could see as far as being justifiable of wanting to have those things agreeable, being in the same things in alignment as far as morals and religion. But I'm not saying you have to be the same age.
You can have that in any age.
I'm not saying that it has to be an age
Make an
thing.
argument for the commonality component here.
But don't you want to date people that they're going to teach you something?
No.
I mean, not
want to be taught.
Not teach you something, but not teach you something. Not teach you something. I guess that was the right word. That wasn't the right word. That wasn't the right word.
Okay, go ahead.
So, like, you like that kind of music because that's what she brought up. You like that kind of music. I like this kind. I've never heard that. Sure, let me hear it. You want to do that? Sure. It's a commonality. It doesn't have to be.
I don't think it's a commonality though. I think it's more of just being in agreement with sharing.
Why do opposites attract though? Why is that a thing? Like there's some people have something and then the other person completes that, and that turns into a match.
Wait, so just to be clear, so commonality, that's super important.
I think it's important.
Having things in common.
I think so.
I don't think it's important.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's important.
You think for either men or women, people are looking at like, oh, we have so much in common. If that were the case, if commonality was really up there, wouldn't people sort for that?
So, first of all, when you ask me these questions, like the whole like smug, like I know better, I know that, like I already disagree with you, but you're asking just to make a
star.
Okay,
hold on.
How did I go to a Taylor Swift
hold on.
concert?
I'm gonna finish something. I'm gonna finish something really quick.
Me, but I'm saying
having a conversation. If that's what we're doing, we're having a conversation. Let's have a conversation to be open to other people's ideas and opinions and views and walks of life.
I'm firm
but
in my
that's not what you're
beliefs,
doing.
so-
Well, so am I. And
I'm open. I'm actually open to having my mind changed.
we can have a volley of conversation, but like where I have an issue with these types of conversations is when you already are getting ready to make a point to like flip.
I'm already ready.
Exactly.
ready.
But it's like you're not even like open for the conversation.
Well,
so
hold on.
why are you asking me the question?
Listen, I think that's a fair criticism. I'll tell you, I'm totally open to having my mind changed. In fact, I hate cognitive dissonance. That's a thing that I despise. I've tried to get rid of as much cognitive dissonance in myself as I possibly can. Totally open to having my mind changed. That's why I love having combos like this.
Yeah,
absolutely. But the thing is are you willing to have your mind changed?
I would be open to it for sure, but where I'm specifically referencing.
Well, how can we do that if we don't? Hang on, I'm almost done. I just wanted a quick yes or no to that, and the reason here's why. If you're open to having your mind changed, and we're having this conversation, how in the world could I change your mind without showing you if we apply this kind of thinking or the rigidity in thinking of I got the ick, and then take it to its logical conclusion, and you see that the position itself is absurd? How else can I get you to change your mind? Can you actually explain that to me?
Sure.
I actually do want to know the answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really difficult for you to completely change the topic in the sake of parallel ideas. You should just stay on the actual topic and maybe ask onion layer peeling questions about how did I get to that logic. So then you would understand where I'm coming from, and you could even have an intelligent conversation in where maybe there's holes in my logic on that topic.
Great. Then let's start with how did you come to the position that a age gap relationship is icky?
I'm going to answer that in 1 second.
How did you come to this?
I will answer that in 1 second, but I want to finish what I was saying to Brian. Like, see, like rolling your eyes, shaking your head.
Because it's a meta conversation.
No, it's not meta. It's just you being a jerk.
Do you know what a meta conversation is?
I sure do.
What is it?
A meta conversation was where you're just ice layering on top of each other, where you're not actually addressing the topic.
That's not a meta conversation.
Or the whataboutism.
That's not
a conversation. Is a conversation about the conversation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I meant by the layering. You're talking about the same thing. So what I want to like, I think it's really important to address. We all drove here and came here for your show, right?
Okay, meta conversation.
No.
You're literally having a meta conversation.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But If we're going to
Okay.
have a conversation, we can have a conversation. But when you're being disrespectful, that's not a conversation.
Well,
But
see,
that's
when it
not-
comes to
I
the
feel
eye rolling,
disrespected.
see, perhaps you might view it as disrespectful. But for example, if somebody were to say, Brian, I want to argue with you about the fact that I think that the sky is red.
But I don't want to argue at all. I already said that.
Okay, if somebody says something ridiculous, so ridiculous that it warrants an eye roll, I don't see any actual objection there. If somebody's going to say, Brian, the sky's not blue, I don't even know how to have that conversation. And some of the eye roll comes from you saying, I mean, I actually find it quite almost despicable that you want to paint men. You said men prey, men are predators, men are mentally, you would question their mental health. I mean, that's very objectionable language because you're essentially painting almost most or all men as having a pathology, which I object to and I find ludicrous. And when it comes to this commonality thing, I just find that absurd. I mean, why even engage in it? Because it's just ridiculous if you genuinely think that commonality is high on the totem pole in terms of what people find attractive.
I completely disagree with you. If
You disagree that in terms of my assessment of what you've said, you've pathologized all men or most men.
No,
You think
I-
they're predatory. You think
didn't
they're
say that.
You said prey.
I said
Did
if
you
there's
say
a
prey?
20-plus year age gap,
Did
let's
the
be
words-
clear, the
did
20-plus year
words-
age gap.
Yes, that's the
So
context of
weird.
Yeah.
which I'm addressing this. Did you say the word prey?
When there's a
Did-
20-year age gap, yes.
Okay, so, but you also said it about even men who find them attractive. You did say that too.
Yeah, I think it's weird. Why would you?
Okay, and you
Yeah.
think it's predatory? You think they're
If you
preying?
pursue it, yeah.
You think they're preying, right? So you're pathologizing. So there's the justification for my eye roll. It's just an absurd statement.
Well, that's my opinion.
Well, so
Andrew was
like
trying to get
claiming
into
be
this. Okay, if you're
open-minded, or-
okay.
Listen, it's perfectly acceptable to have an opinion, and I do want to hear it. Like, that's why I come on these shows, because I enjoy hearing your opinions.
Yeah.
The reason that I enjoy hearing your opinions is because often, and I've had to change my mind multiple times about different positions that I've had, especially after starting whatever, because I didn't know very much about modern dating. I didn't know very much about how this stuff went at all. And I've been forced to change my opinions many times because I was suffering from cognitive dissonance. There's no doubt about it. There was many things which I had a completely skewed view on that I no longer do after engaging in these panels. So I do want to hear your opinion, but I think you got to listen to ours as well. I think that that's a kind of the fair exchange. So my olive branch here is like, look, we've engaged before, right? And you know that if you give me your opinion, you're genuine. I am going to deconstruct it a bit. But we don't even have to be disrespectful about it. We just go through the opinion and figure this thing out. Right?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said when it's done respectfully. But when it's like, it's so clear, like we're not even having a conversation because
That's
you're
tone
closed off.
policing. Come on,
It's
don't tone police.
No.
That's just,
It's okay.
It's tone policing.
Well, I'm gonna
Well, what's happening
leave the
right now?
conversation if it's not respectful.
What I perceive is happening right now is you're unwilling to engage with the argument because you're feeling offended by the tone. Whereas you could be generous to the other person. Maybe you could even say, Brian's a little immature in his delivery. That's fine. But if you're a mature adult willing to engage with the actual argument that's being posed, I can put away the immaturity. I can put away the disrespect. I've had plenty of people on panels before really disrespect me and how they say things, but I still genuinely engage with the argument that's being presented to me, regardless of how they say it. And I think you should be able to do that as a mature adult. Now, I'm giving this as like a critique to your argumentation style. So instead of attacking somebody because of the way they say
who did I
things,
attack?
Brian.
I attacked him.
Well, you're okay.
I don't
Maybe
think
I
it's
don't want to say the
necessarily
word
an attack.
Okay,
Attacking,
it is.
I think women have a hard time
Okay,
sometimes
maybe
admitting that they're wrong.
Okay, well, see, there it goes again. Well, there it goes
Everyone
again.
does.
Because I use the word attack, you're unwilling to engage with what I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of, so if I say attack, maybe you can translate in that in your mind to say, okay, maybe he's making an argument, or we're having a spirited discussion. Maybe I'm not going to judge him based on the tone or the words he says. Maybe I want to interpret the meaning he's trying to get across with saying what he's saying. It's a really immature way to go about having a discussion with somebody, judging them based upon the verbiage, the language, and the tone of what they're using.
I got this. Okay, duly noted. Anyways, why don't you engage with Andrew? Go ahead.
Okay.
Noted. Duly noted. Go ahead. Have the conversation.
Yeah. So I do genuinely want to know how you came to this opinion.
Well, one, I'm a woman who was once in her early 20s, and I did engage with, when I just want to be clear, I'm not saying sexually, but like I did have conversations. I did have men hitting on me. I did, work in environments, et cetera, where there was a lot of men that were acting predatorily because I was so young, impressionable, and easy to, coerce to do different things, go different places, et cetera.
Yeah, that guy's right.
I've had a lot of negative experiences with men that are much older than me. And if now that I'm older, my number one piece of advice to younger women is try to just keep it around the same age as you. Like, I don't think, 20 years, 30 years older than you is appropriate. That's just my personal opinion from my personal lived experiences.
Andrew, I have something on this.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you dated men who were older and they were bad experiences. Yeah. Don't doubt that at all. But I also hear from women, for example, who date men their own age and have also bad experiences. Mm-hmm. So it's not clear to me that it really matters. If you're trying to avoid bad experiences, I don't see really what age has to do with it. A guy the same age as you can be just as or more abusive and controlling as an older guy.
Sure can. I just, my personal opinion based on my personal lived experiences is that there should be a smaller age gap. I say 10 years is roughly the max.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a question for you.
When you're guiding women,
do.
because you said this was your number one piece of advice for younger women, and I didn't get that wrong. I'm not strawmanning that, right? You did say that's your number one piece of advice.
Yeah.
Do you usually guide them only via anecdote?
Clarify what you mean.
Like only your personal experience?
I also, I take into account, who that girl is, their experience, like, a lot of different factors. But in general, young women who are in their early 20s, fresh out of high school, maybe newly going into college. When you graduate when you're 18, fresh out of high school is 2 years ago.
That's not that fresh, but okay. Fair enough.
All right. Well,
I
I'm just saying young women.
I mean, within 5 years, it's fresh. We'll just say that for the kind of like the sake of however it is that you feel. But do you understand? So when I talk to different men, I don't actually give advice, right? I make sure not to, because if I'm not intricately familiar with a person's personal situation, I feel like I could actually make it worse if I gave them bad advice. So I tend to stay away from advice giving at all. But one thing I do tell people, and this is the one thing I'll tell anybody who listens, is there is a proper way to think. There's a proper way to think, and there's an improper way to think. And so when I listen to you kind of go through this, what I'm looking for is how is she thinking about this? Why is she thinking about it this way? And why is she arriving at that conclusion? Because most people come to improper conclusions because they have not been taught to properly think. So if we start with an anecdote of you have bad experience with X, that really doesn't mean shit ultimately, right? It would actually be improper thinking to say, because I had negative experiences in field X, that therefore other people are going to have negative experiences. You would want to look at kind of the whole in order to make a good conclusion before you were to give somebody advice, right? You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Same as statistics.
I don't really think it's that deep though, Andrew. I'm just more referring to, when I do have younger women approaching me and talking to me about their male situations, I will go off of what they've shared and I will encourage them to date within their own age range.
Can I ask you a question about that?
But I mean, that has vast implications for a person's life, right? It does. Giving a person advice about who they should or shouldn't date has massive implications for the outcomes of their life.
Well, when I'm asked for my advice, sometimes will give it. Not always,
yeah,
but
sure.
sometimes.
No, and I understand. That's okay.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who give advice, when they're asked in this type of thing. I tend not to. But don't you think that if you're a person who does give advice, that you should be coming to proper conclusions before you give it out?